see some incredible pilots, some incredible industry panels.
SeriesFest is the premier place to be.
It's really important in every industry to have community. This is where it begins here at SeriesFest.
I think Hollywood is changing, but not fast enough. We need the gatekeepers to open the door, and SeriesFest, they're blasting the doors open.
All eyes focused on the Mile High City this weekend, an ambitious and exciting new festival called SeriesFest.
An international television pilot festival.
Uniting artists, television executives, and producers to find the next big hit.
Finally, there's an independent avenue for people who want to just go into the TV business.
I'm Gemma Chan. It's such a great idea to have a festival dedicated to TV like this.
First, we're going to kick it off with our third annual Pitch-a-thon.
I love that you have pitch sessions here because that is the one thing they don't teach you in film school, they don't teach you in college, and it turns out to be probably the most important function of creating a show and getting it on the air.
One of the reasons why we're here is to remind the filmmakers that are here that they have an impact, that they make a difference.
I'm going to learn probably more than anybody else. So it's great to be here at SeriesFest.
SeriesFest, what up?
Thank you so much. It says Steve Carell on it, but we can build a marketplace here, a place like SeriesFest, the way that Sundance did in the early 90s with independent film.
I'm excited to be here as an artist performing tonight at the kickoff of SeriesFest. I'm on the way up.
I'm on the way up. This is the best audience to come out to in the entire world.
First things first, can we talk about the mechanics of the crawfish scene? Like, you just taking down those crawfish. Like, everyone else is kind of unsure about it, and you just go for it. Like, was that part of a conversation that was like, this is what Claude would do?
To be honest, I think I was actually hungry, and that was the only thing around. I think the crafty was too far to be reached. So when we shot that scene, I was literally hungry, and I was just like, I was happy with the, how did they call it, Steve in the show,
the suck water.
The suck water. I was just happy with the suck water, but.
Now, Tracey, I want to go to you because you are one of the creators of the show, co-showrunner. And you also have just such an interesting career journey. Could you just give our audience a little bit of background and how this particular project came about?
Sure. So I got my start writing on 30 Rock. So Tina, thank you. So, Tina Fey has been so instrumental to my career. She gave me my first job as a writer, and I started as an assistant there, and then I became a writer, and then she and I wrote the finale of 30 Rock together. So she really just gave me every shot in the world. And then she produced my first show for NBC. And so when we were thinking about, when this project started, she and my friend Lang Fisher, who wrote on 30 Rock as well, she and Lang and I were thinking of doing a show together because Tina wanted to act in something again, and and we were talking about a bunch of ideas, but Tina kept mentioning this movie, which Lang and I had not seen because we're so young, and no, I just hadn't seen it, but she kept mentioning it as kind of a tonal because we knew we wanted to do a show that's a little different tonally than some of the other comedies, a little slower paced, a little more human stakes. And she kept being like, it's like that movie, The Four Seasons. And finally, Lang and I were like, oh, we should watch this movie. And we watched it, and and we were like, oh, we should do this as a show because it has such a cool structure to it. And I think Alan Alda in the original just made so many kind of great observations about what it's like to be married for a long time, to be friends for a long time, and we felt like that was a conversation we wanted to have as well.
Yeah, I watched the series, and all my mom does is play Candy Crush, and my parents have been together like 30 plus years, and after I watched this, I called my dad. I was like, hey, is everything okay with you and mom? Like how do you find that balance between comedy but then also that realness of it?
Well, that's also my marriage because I sit in bed playing a little game where I organize groceries while my husband watches television, and we're fine. I think we're fine. I think we assembled a writer's room of it was a lot of old 30 Rock friends and a lot of people who were the age of the characters and had been married a long time. And so this room, more than any other comedy room, we spent a lot of time talking about our own relationships, our friendships, and I think a lot of the stuff that's that's funny in the show is stuff that we kind of like pulled from the writers' real life and their real relationships, things they were willing to share.
Very cool. And Marco, you have an interesting journey into the project.
Yes, I actually want to say, talking about what you guys were talking around, I joined the cast, it was basically May, June of last year, and I was going to get married in September. And I was so happy, the first script arrived, and I was like, this is so good, and then it gets worse and worse and worse, and the date of my wedding approaches, I'm like, are we sure? Because that felt like a very terrible playbook. I was like, I don't know if... So that was so fun. And the last episode arrived, and of course I'm not spoiling anything, and it was just 3 days before my wedding, and we were with my husband in Italy, and anyway, it was just so hilarious, the coincidence. But my journey is really... This came truly out of the blue, and it took me a minute to identify it and accept it as a blessing, because I haven't acted in a long time. I've been away from the front of the camera for almost 16 years, and I've mainly dedicated myself first as a theater maker and recently as a filmmaker, but as a writer-director. And I had no visions of, or no even dreams of myself to be in front of the camera again, although I trained as an actor since I was 15 and 14 years old. And then this thing came in a very wild way too. Corman Domingo, who's a friend, he calls me one morning and he asked me, are you still an actor? And I'm like, no. So, Jerry, in retrospect, knowing all this, I was like, oh yes. But actually, so I said, oh no. I was like, oh damn it, because my husband, Raul, his husband, had a vision last night. I didn't know he was cast into this. I didn't know anything. And he was like, would you put yourself on tape? And I was like, what is it? He didn't tell me, thank God. Because if he had told me that it was a new Tina Fey show, I would have freaked out. So I'm like, okay, this guy needs somebody, an Italian, who passes by and say, pizza margherita for you, ciao. You know, he's a director, a producer. I was like, you know, wouldn't you do that for your friends? Yes. So they're like, okay, I put myself on tape, yeah. And then this thing comes, and I'm like, holy shit. And then, anyway, I put myself on tape. It went well. Called back. It went well, and I got the part. And that changed my life, truly. I mean, at least so far. It changed the course, definitely, of what I thought was my life.
Well, Tracey, when you're working on a project, for example, with someone like Tina Fey, did you always know that she was going to be Kate, or do other people, like, did Marco come in and surprise you as well? Like,
yeah, no, it would have been really uncool if we were like, Tina, I don't know if you're right for this necessarily. No, we wrote Kate for her, and then we wrote other part. We wrote Nick for Steve, and Tina knew Steve from date night, and so we went out to him first, and I remember he said yes, and we're like, oh no, well now who can we get? Like, we know it seems like really good people want to do this. So then we went out to Coleman, and he said yes. And then, you know, and Will, we also offered it to, although like later, but we, the rest were casting, and we had written Claude differently. Like, he was sort of like more of a like drip, like kind of a guy nobody wants to be, like he was just, and more kind of like, he was just sort of a house husband who
I don't know any about.
Yeah, it was no, and it was just a different kind of part, and we had guys come in and read, and guys were good and stuff. But Coleman had mentioned, do you mind if I like if my friend reads, because I think he might be good for it, and we're like, oh sure. But always when an actor's like, can my friend read? It's like their trainer or someone they're terrible, and so we're like, yeah, sure. And I remember seeing your audition. I remember there was like a joke in there about like your house is haunted and the ghosts or whatever, and it was so funny, and it was so a completely different flavor than we had, and a completely different way of doing the character than we had thought of, better than we would have just thought of on our own. And so, you know, very quickly, I think we all felt like, oh, we'll just rewrite it for him. And we did.
To Coleman's credit, actually, he also told me, you know, I've never done that. I never asked a director or a showrunner to look at my friend's tape, or I've never done that. But he felt inspired, and I guess he was right. He had a vision.
It's so fun to see you and Coleman on screen together, but also with the rest of the cast. I mean, what an ensemble. Were you able to like hang out and build chemistry with them before, or is this all like just you all hanging out on set?
Well, we loved on set, but before we had a lot of like, new times, modern times. It's like a lot of Zoom calls, and we read each script over the course of 2 months. We all got cast, and there was only, I didn't even have episode 1, so the first episode really arrived, the script arrived a month later, and then weekly or bi-weekly we met and read them together and discovered the characters and the plot together. So, and that's when we start to fall in love with each other, but it still felt like, we gotta like each other. Like, it felt like a homework, but it felt also natural homework. But by the time we were on set, it just, I know this sounds like so pathetic and like, of course they love each other. No, it was truly fun and organic and spontaneous. We were all, listen, it's also the nature of the show. The story, it's a story of people who've known each other for so long, but also it's like the 6 of us, mainly the 6 of us, then, other people will come, but all together all the time in 1-2 locations. So we were all the time all together, and I swear to God, in between takes, not just in between scenes or setups, we were playing games all the time. Like every single game. Sometimes I didn't even understand those games. They were a little too American for me, but I was just like, okay, I'm just look at these people. It was very, very fun, truly, and best scene partners ever, best friends ever.
That all sounds so fun, and what also sounds fun is the writer's room. I mean, some of like the best and funniest minds in television. You, Lang, tell me everything that went down in the writer's room. Like, what were the vibes?
Yeah, I mean, it was really fun for us because, like I mentioned, it was a lot of people from 30 Rock, like Josh Siegel and Dylan Morgan, who wrote on my last 2 shows and wrote on Good Place and were at 30 Rock the whole time, and Vali Chandrasekharan, who was on Modern Family and 30 Rock, and Lisa Muse Bryant, who I hadn't worked with before, but she was on a bunch of Mike Schur shows, and she actually, when Lang and I were developing this, her office is next door, and so she'd just kind of come over all the time and be like, what are you working on? And we'd like pitch her stuff and whatever, and then so she was a friend too. And John Rigi, who had worked on 30 Rock, and Matt Whitaker, who had worked on other Girls 5 Ever, Kimmy, like other Tina shows. So it was a group of people. I mean, 30 Rock came out in 2006. So it was like people I've known for almost 20 years, So it was so fun because it's also like, they're people I've known for forever and been friends with, but we, in a writer's room, usually you're just like mostly pitching jokes. And this was a little different where we were able to like go a little deeper and get personal and talk about all different things. So even friends that I've known for a long time, and Tina too, I was like, oh, I didn't know that's what you're like with your husband in this situation or whatever. So it was, it was a really nice experience for me.
Now, Randy mentioned this at the beginning, but this is based off of a movie, and you spoke about this as well. How do you decide whether like, okay, we're gonna make it a movie or we're gonna make it a TV show? And then there's like 8 episodes and there's 4 seasons. So like the decision to make 8 smaller, shorter episodes rather than 4 longer ones.
Well, some of it is just kind of like we Tina and Lang and I have a deal at Universal Television, so we have to make television shows. They would be mad if we made movies when they're paying us to make television shows. So we had to make a television show. But we work in comedy. I think it might have been me who was, I think also it was just maybe less desirable for the studio. All of that stuff, I feel like some of it is choices that are not purely creative. Like, I think it was less desirable for the studio for us to do 4 episodes, honestly, instead of 8. And also as much as it's like a dramedy, it's still a comedy. So I felt like it was better as these half-hour episodes. And I think part of what we wanted to do with the show was really have a cliffhanger at the end of each episode that pulls you into the next season, pulls you into the next episode. So it just felt like more opportunities to do that. So I preferred it to be a half hour rather than an hour.
And are you filming the seasons in order? Or
no, not necessarily. We filmed that one first. We filmed spring first in the Hudson Valley. Then we filmed fall because then it was fall. And then we filmed winter, which didn't.
Hope it was winter, but it was,
it didn't really work. So we had to do some reshoots that we went north and did some skiing reshoots. And then we shot Puerto Rico for summer. And so that we waited till the end because then hurricane season would be over.
It was actually amazing to wrap the whole experience in Puerto Rico. It felt like a honeymoon, a holiday all together. It was just perfection.
Yeah. Any fun stories from these adventures in these magical locations?
What did you say, sorry?
Any fun stories? I mean, I'm sure.
How much time do you have? I mean, I think in Puerto Rico, I think the best. We were by then we were like one giant family, and we were hanging at night, and we were all staying in this beautiful resort, but we had like the part of the resort where each of us had a little house, a little tiny house, but we were hanging at somebody's house each single night, and one night we got really drunk, and I have photos to prove I can't show, but and Steve gifted us with this ugly, lovely silk Christmas Puerto Rican shirt, and he bought them all together. They're super pricey because the things in this resort, they're super pricey, and they bought them for all of us. And by different colors, different tiny differences in the texture, but also in the design. And this woman who runs that store never sold as many shirts like that. She couldn't believe it. Steve Carell was buying all those shirts. Anyway, we dressed all together we took 1,000 photos all together with those shirts. A little drunk too, and that was one of the many moments.
Yeah. Supporting local businesses, I love it. Are you also, when you're in these locations, working with like the local crews?
Yeah, that's what was cool about. I hadn't shot in Puerto Rico before, and you're always a little nervous when you're shooting, honestly, outside of LA or New York. Like, okay, and what's the crew gonna be like? And we, our line producer Bill Sell had a producer in Puerto Rico who helped us kind of assemble crews. But there are 2 incredible crews there because they've shot like Marvel movies and stuff there. Like they have the infrastructure to do it. It's like an awesome place to shoot, and the crews were fast, amazing, like so sweet and very talented. Like everyone did a really great job, and they were, it was really, really nice to shoot in a different place. And they were so excited for us to be there too. Yeah. Like they want the work, and PAs and the background people were all local from Puerto Rico, and so many people came up to me and were like, I'm an actor and I'm starting out, and I don't, it's really hard here to start versus like if you or born in New York or LA or whatever. And so they were so excited to have us there and to have production there.
I think they were amazing. I think Tina found a couple of scripts outside her house and the resort too.
Marco, I know you mentioned this earlier, but you also have so much experience as an amazing writer, director, a lot of behind the camera work. How did that influence, when you come into a project and you're acting? Like, are you trying to be like, okay, I'm here to direct too? Or, how are you able to bring that knowledge into your work?
No. I had the real actor voice inside of me, which is the one who's full of doubts, who doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't know what he's feeling, and try to connect with the truth. No, I wasn't trying to direct, but also I'm naturally curious at the same time. Honestly, my writing school, my directing school was my acting school. I just trained as an actor, and then by acting, at some point in my 20s, I turned, I started to write my own plays and then direct them. So it was actually very refreshing to be back in front of the camera and to see how much I learned from the other side and so much and how much I had forgotten. Although I love directing actors, and I heard that actors love to be directed by me, but because there's a mutual, we speak the same language, we have the same understanding of time and timing also in terms of production, but I forgot really what it feels, even if I remember it rationally, but not in my body. And I'm so grateful to have had this opportunity, because if I will go back behind the camera again, directing my next film, I will bring also this experience, and and also to share the screen with these giants. I mean, that was a lesson, a giant lesson from day one, from moment one. I didn't feel I could be there in their presence. They're such icons, especially in comedy. If you see my work as a writer, director, also, it's very intense. It's very dramatic, and so it's not just a comeback as an actor, but it's also a challenge for me in terms of genre, in terms of language. So I really owe to a lot of people a lot. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Going back again, behind the scenes, behind the camera, this show, you're one of 3 showrunners, and I feel like most shows just have one. What's the decision process like? Like, how does that
Yeah,
work?
I mean, I've my other shows, I've always been the only one, so this was new for me too. Luckily, we have a history and we have a lot of trust with each other, so it was, I didn't know, like, are we gonna get in a fight and not be speaking by the end of this? But we didn't. Like, I really trust Lang, and she really trusts me, and Tina gave us our start. So like, if there was anything we ever disagreed on, it was like easy. It was just like, Tina's like this, and it's like, okay, we'll do that. And and I think the showrunning's really hard, and it's a lot of jobs, and I think we all could take editing, being on set, writing, different jobs at different times. And Tina was acting too, so it worked nicely.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people in the audience and a lot of people who are, working to get their projects off the ground or are working on their first pilot. What do you look for, or what's important for you when you're making a show, or a show like this where you like, okay, we need to make this a show now? Is there like a click moment?
Yeah, I read a lot of, because I have a deal at Universal, so I have produced stuff too. Like I read pilots and I hear pitches and stuff, and I mean, I think the most important thing is that it's a person with a real point of view, that the show is funny to me and feels like a good idea that because these are all the questions that studio will ask and then network will ask. That's like, why does the show have to be made right now? Why does it have to be made? And so it's like, if you can answer those questions. And I think another thing that's hard is I do, when I'm looking to produce something, I want a showrunner who will be able to run their own show. So I often will gravitate towards people who have had some years in a writer's room, just because otherwise they'll stick you with a showrunner, and that's just harder. It's harder to do it when you can't do your own.
Margaret, I'm also curious how you prepared for this role. Were there other characters from other movies or shows that you were trying to embody, or were you just like, let's do this?
No, I mean, I didn't prepare at all. No, I was actually trying to stay away from other similar representation of the same kind of. I felt, I fell in love immediately with Claude, but I felt immediately the challenge. I didn't want to play the same kind of stereotype of the middle-aged gay man that we've seen already on TV. At the same time, I had an extra challenge, although I was cast because I was Italian and they liked that sparkle and that accent, but I didn't even want to play that cliche. And although, it's a comedy, so you have to, Claude is written to be theatrical and it's written to be Italian at the same time. So I was like, how do you make comedy? So playing those chords without falling into those boxes easily. And so I don't know, I didn't have anything particular in mind, or anyone else particular in mind. Not a reference, not even Rita Moreno. Randy spotted me before. I didn't really watch the movie. Yeah. I tried though, for the records. But the moment the show was announced, Netflix took it off, and then I tried, and someone was like, I think it's a sign. I think I have to make my own version of it. Now I'm dying to watch it, of course. And they did actually.
It's coming back to Netflix on May 4th, the original movie.
Okay.
Well, and you were saying earlier too that it already started premiering in Europe with the time difference, so all of your friends in Italy are blowing up your phone.
They're all like, well, pizza, Coca-Cola. They're like, like sending me screenshots, and it's been a busy morning. Yes.
Well, I mean, I love the show so much. I think it's a success. It sounds like it's already blowing up in Europe, and probably people are watching it right now. But is there a moment too when something clicks where you're like, I think the show is going to be like a success, or like I can't wait for people?
I don't know. I mean, it's like you work just as hard on the things that do bad as the things that do good. So it's like you can't tell at this point, right? Like I will wait until an executive calls me and says it's a success. I'd like to make a season 2 until I'm like, I've felt it, right? Like it's just always a little nerve-wracking today.
We are waiting for that call. We felt it, but it's so pathetic. Like we felt that this was gonna be great when we were all together and we were having a great time and we were all thinking it's gonna be great. So we still hold that feeling. It's now a hope because now it's out in the world today. And we hope for that call to come, and I would love to do season 2.
Yeah. Okay, so this isn't just like a limited. Okay, the 4 seasons happened.
No, I think it would. I think it would have to be like everyone would want to come back, and Netflix would want to do it. But I think we would be open to doing more. It was really fun to make, and I think there's like so many more stories you can tell about married people that beyond what we did in this season.
It started as was a mini series, like was conceived as a.
Yeah, but everything's a mini series until it gets picked up, right?
I want to go back to something you were talking about earlier, and that is like filming the episodes out of order, which again is unusual for television. But as an actor, like how I'm always so curious, like something already happened, but then you have to go back, and how do you know what the vibes?
It wasn't like this for everyone else. I remember I was going around on set with this big binder with all the scripts all together, so I could go back and forth. But it is true that we didn't do spring, summer, but we did spring, fall, winter, summer, so almost close enough to be chronological. And the scenes were kind of chronological. So, and it's shot. It was shot in a way that it didn't feel that crazy. But when I had it took me a minute to adjust to the fall episodes because all the summer episodes were missing, and I really had to study the summer episodes before starting the fall. Just to understand the transition, the emotional transition. All the. I mean, it's written so well, but. The actors need to find also all the subtext, right? That they're already there, but they're not like highlighted for you. So, and in the summer you're gonna see it's super fun, but it sets the tone for the fall and the winter. It's gonna spiral into something also quite different too. I think you all are up for a great journey.
Again, I want to go back to something. Again, we kind of spoke about this, but a lot of our audience are, people who are working on getting their projects off the ground. What advice would you have for them?
I mean, it's so hard. I as traditional as you can have a path in television, I think I took it that I was a writer's assistant. I was an assistant and a writer's assistant, and then I got hired in that room. I know very little about making independent pilots and independent television shows, but it does seem like it's an emerging thing that people can do with greater success now, and streamers buy them directly and stuff. But I think advice I would give if you're kind of starting out and you want to get into a writer's room is I think it's hard to not be in New York or LA, really in LA, because even though a lot of the rooms are Zoom rooms, you still are kind of like, in order to meet people and get your foot in the door, like a lot of people still are living in LA. And a lot of times, writing is not a thing that you can apply for. It's like you pull from people in your circle, people you've written with before. And often like the ones I give shots to are my assistant, So I think like if you're trying to get your foot in the door, it is easier to maybe be in a city where like lots of TV is being made, which is not an easy thing to do, or good advice. Yeah. It's like, who would want to hear that? You're like, I live in Denver with my husband and children.
I just spoke about the summer episode. I just spotted the Oz Rodriguez, our director of the summer episodes over there.
Woo! Oh, he got very sick, very sick.
What advice would you have for anyone who's looking to, you know, I mean, as an actor, but then also, you know, you're a director and writer too. What advice would you have?
Oh my God. I don't know. I've worked so hard all my life, also to keep myself alive, not just to keep myself creative. And I'm, you know, if there's a lesson that Four Seasons taught me is just, you know, you can work as hard as you can, and you should. You can expect things as hard as you can, and you should, but also be open. Be open, because life sometimes has bigger plans for you, and you just need to be ready for those too.
Now we know the series is out today, but what are you like most excited? Do you have a few things that you're really excited for audiences to experience and watch?
Me? No, just kidding. I mean, the whole show. I can't pick anything.
I know, it's so a show that is like, I like hate that you guys just saw. You have to promise me you'll watch the rest. I hate that you just saw the first one, because it's, you know, and you feel this way a little bit about every pilot, but it's like the pilot is so just one piece of it, and like every 2 episodes is like its own little movie that like I really am excited for people to watch the rest of them and take the whole journey with them, and you know, and hopefully enjoy it.
Yeah, I hope you really you fall in love, and you with each one of the characters. True, and it's true. It's like that you feel for them, and they're so. I think they're so relatable. They're so real. I hope you can find yourself in each one of them.
At the end of each episode, I audibly was gasping. Like, oh my God. I was like, you want to keep going, and then you start the next episode and you're like, oh,
okay, that's what we want then.
Like,
we want people to gasp.
Yeah, there was audible gasping by myself. It was fun. Okay, so now we have some time for audience Q&A. If anyone has any questions. The light is so bright, I can't see anything.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Georgette Pierre. One thing I thought about in regards to, you were talking about the writer's room has married couples, but where in the world can, like, for TV shows, people that aren't in this space but can also offer like a niche expertise? Like, do you all think about consultants that can speak to specific storylines? Just kind of opening that up for people that think about that as well, right?
I think on shows that, you know, like on The Pit, do they have like medical consultants? Yes. Yeah. On a show like this, no. I think like we looked to writers that had specific experience. We wanted to make sure we had gay writers in the room. We wanted to make sure we had writers who had been divorced. We wanted to make sure we had one of the writers went through a kind of health scare with their spouse. Like it was important to us to have writers in the room who could speak honestly about experiences that they had and had some familiarity with what we were planning for the season. But I think, I think for comedies especially, like I don't usually on my last show was a high school show, and we had consultants like that would come and talk to the writers a couple times about like high school, about like from LAUSD about what it's like to work in a high school or whatever, and that kind of stuff we'll do sometimes. But I think if you I don't know specifically what you're asking about, but if you have an area of expertise, especially if you live outside of New York or LA, there is a way to get noticed. It's like TikTok, and it's like, by the way, I've hired writers that way. People notice you when you talk very specifically about, I don't know what your area of expertise is, shopping at Home Goods. As an example, it's like if you make a million funny TikToks that get lots of views about shopping at Home Goods, and I have a show about a woman who works at Home Goods, it's like, I bet I've seen your videos, and I am the kind of person who'd be like, yeah, give them a shot. Who knows? Like, why not let them be a staff writer and we'll see? But it's like, I want writers in the room who are speaking to the experience and are actually writers, as opposed to just people who are like, this is how we would do it, or this is how we wouldn't do it.
I have a question. Hi.
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 Hi. Oh, I love you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, and I love your show.
Oh my God.
You know who that is?
I can't see a
From
thing.
Abbott Elementary. Wait,
I'm
Lisa
also
and
Italian.
yes.
I love you.
I love you.
What are my
Come on,
glasses?
join the party. Grazie mille, grazie. Congratulations. It's fantastic.
you.
I cannot wait to watch all of it.
Oh,
it's
that's
really good. And honestly, I love all of Tina Fey's shows. I love 30 Rock. It's one of my favorite top 3 shows on TV ever. I saw this and I saw her doing promos for it, and I was like, oh, I didn't love that movie. Because I'm old enough to remember when it came out.
You know what?
And
My mom and her friend Angie said the same thing. But
you
don't
know,
tell Alan Alda.
am
It would
I
be
your
so
mom's
sad.
age?
I think
they're
some
recording
people.
you. They are
I know.
recording you.
Don't tell any. No, but I
the
think
thing
stays at
is
Series.
that
What happens at Series
The
Fest stays at
reason
Series.
I mean, I was a kid when it came out. I was a kid. But I didn't like the people. It was very 70s. Nobody had to be likable. I didn't like I loved Alan Alda from MASH. I didn't like him in this movie, and I thought everybody felt really selfish. And I already love these characters. So my question is, who owned the IP, and how much did you have to stay faithful, or did you at all have to stay faithful to anything in this movie or anything in the original, except for the broad concept of these are people that meet at this cabin and they go through changes?
That's such a good question. I
Thank you.
feel like the movie is so many people who are like Tina's age have come up to me and they're like, oh my God, it's my favorite movie. But then a couple people were like, I didn't like that. But my mom doesn't like the big chill. Like she's like, oh, grow up, don't do drugs. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know what specific reason she had, but it might be what you're saying. Like I think in the original, it was one of Tina's favorite movies. So we really looked to her about what parts did you love about, and I just watched it the other night because we had a screening that Alan was at, and there are parts of it that are so lovely, like when Carol Burnett's cracking up and they can hear their friends having sex, and it's such a funny scene. It feels so real about like when you and your spouse are in bed and you start laughing over something and you can't stop. There's such lovely, and so like moments like that, we're like, oh, we got to do that. But I don't think we felt beholden to anything else really. And I think like where you're saying character, I think it was important to us to make sure, like Nick especially, I think watching the movie back, I'm like, yeah, men could act that way in the 70s. They can't act that way anymore. But I think, and Steve is a guy that you can't help but love. So it's great that he's the one playing the guy who's kind of blowing up his life. And my hope is that watching our show, they're all likable and you feel like, oh, it sucks he's doing that. I get why he's doing that. And so that was important to us. And giving Anne more of a big arc. Because really in the original, Anne just kind of, it's sad. Like she doesn't stay friends with anyone. And yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Back here, hi. Jordan
Hi.
Black, I'm a comedy writer from Chicago. I, in fact, share a connection with some of your cast members in that I'm an alumni of the Second City.
Oh, nice.
I just wanted to ask you about the chemistry of your principal cast was absolutely incredible. And I wanted to ask, how did the improvisational background of some of the principal cast impact that chemistry, or was it mostly due to the character dynamics through the writing?
I mean, it might have happened, but this might come as a shock, but we didn't improvise at all. Everything you see on screen, it was really in the scripts. It was really very well written scripts, so beautifully layered, beautifully balanced between humor and emotional depth. I guess I was the only one at some point allowed to improvise because I wanted to put some Italianness, and everything that was in the script, it wasn't really spelled right. Or was inappropriate. I remember texting Tina, I was like, can I change this? Oh, honey, that's Google Translate. Yes, please go, do your thing. So I cannot answer for them how much it helped them, but I can tell you that we didn't, not that we didn't want to, but we really didn't need to. There was plenty of room in the scripts, in the pages, for us to swim and find ourselves and our characters in it. Right?
Yeah, and as much as I love working with improvisers, and I have always, I feel like it's often, and I have worked on shows where we do a million alts, it's often a sign like things aren't going great, honestly, because it's like, I don't know, maybe this joke will fix it or whatever. And it's like, it will in the moment, because the crew will laugh because they haven't heard it before, but then you get in editing and you're like, oh, that one sucked too, you know? So I think improvisation in a TV show or a movie, like, you got to be careful with it a little bit.
All right, we have time for one more question. And okay, it's like I cannot see anything.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm curious, when you're approaching bringing directors onto your projects, what you look for and what makes you work with someone for the first time.
That's a great question. So we, I think, like, for this project, we found Shari and Bob, who did the pilot, because we really, like, one thing I haven't really done is made shows that look very beautiful, and they, you know, you have meetings with a bunch of people, and you kind of hear back from them, like, are they reading in this what you're wanting them to read in this? And, you know, and Bob and Shari, I think they had done work on Succession and Fleischman is in Trouble, which I thought looked really beautiful, and Only Murders and stuff. And so watching their episodes, I was like, oh, they will know how to do this and capture the kind of tone we're going for, you know. And Oz was a little bit in the family because he came from SNL, and I think it was really important to us, as much as this is like a dramedy, and especially for the summer episodes, it's like we needed someone who really knew how to make things funny, and Oz does and has done this a million times before, but also, you know, was cool shooting, it helped you spoke Spanish, it was cool shooting in Puerto Rico with you, because, you know, he also was able to make the show look beautiful and really use the location to really tell the story. And, you know, and Coleman directed an episode, Lang Fisher, who created the show with us, directed the winter episodes, and Tina's husband, Jeff, directed. So a lot of it was all in, again, like, kind of all in the family with people that we trust.